I don't know what happened there.
It's 7 o'clock. The meeting will come to order. I'm Grace Lesbrance, Cascade Township Supervisor. Clerk Slater, please call the roll.
Trustee Nordhook.
Here.
Trustee McDonald.
Here.
Supervisor Lesbrance.
Here.
Treasurer Pierce.
Here.
Trustee Kessel.
Here.
Trustee Shipley.
And I'm here.
Clerk Slater here.
Thank you. Please rise if possible for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of tonight's agenda. Is there a motion or discussion?
Shipley makes a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Support.
It's a motion by trustee Shipley, supported by trustee McDonald to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Article 4, we have no presentations this evening. Article 5, public comments. Please come to the podium. Anyone wishing to speak, state your name and address so that we can keep that for our records, and also try to limit your comments to 3 minutes. And is there anyone virtually who would wish to comment?
If any of our Zoom participants would like to comment, please raise your hand. Dial *9 if you're on the phone. I'll wait a few seconds, Supervisor. Doesn't look like anyone wants to comment.
Okay, thank you. Article 6, approval of the consent agenda. Do we have any discussion items or motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
Shipley makes a motion to approve the consent agenda. Support.
That is a motion by trustee Shipley, supported by trustee Kessel to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Article 7, we have no financial actions tonight. Article 8, unfinished business. Amendment to the Township Committee policy. Manager Swayze, are you going to present on this item or?
I can start, certainly. So you'll recall that at our January 12th Township Board meeting, the Township Board considered changes to the Township's committee policy. And at that time, the item was tabled and remanded to the Governance Committee to review. The Governance Committee did do that. They met at their regularly scheduled meetings on January 26th and February 23rd to discuss and consider changes to the policy. So in your packet, I included a couple things. So there's the proposed policy changes by the Governance Committee. There's also a form that is potential policy changes offered by the Township Attorney, and then a copy of the current policy as well. So the committee reviewed and considered policy changes that were recommended as part of the January 12th board meeting item and Attorney Homier's draft during their meetings. And after considerations, they are recommending the following changes. These are highlighted in the attached draft policy as well. So in section 3B1, they're recommending adding language that would allow committee members to serve until his or her successor is appointed. In section 3C3, they're recommending changes to clarify language regarding calling special meetings of the committees. In section 4B, they removed language requiring a governance committee recommendation in order for the Township Board to amend the policy. And then they offered a couple grammatical error corrections as well. So the Governance Committee has recommended the board adopt the proposed amendments. It was voted 2-1 with Treasurer Pierce and Clerk Slater voting yes and Trustee Nordic voting no. And there's no financial ramifications should the Township Board choose to approve these amendments.
Discussion?
Ben, it looks like from when I looked 1-for-1 for what is recommended highlighted in yellow and what our attorney recommended, they're identical.
No, so there were changes that were potential changes that were offered by the attorney that were not recommended by the committee.
Okay.
Why is that?
I would defer to the committee members to answer.
Because when I looked at them, they look almost identical.
The attorney recommended staggered board
Oh, I see.
term limits. And I
Okay,
thought that was inconsistent with the,
sure, okay. But other than that, I see the crossouts and the crossouts, they pretty much match.
The meaning is similar. Yeah.
And the holdover portion was brought up by trustee Kessel, not the attorney, correct?
That's
Correct.
correct.
I'm not sure.
So it
That's
was
true.
originally brought up by trustee Kessel. And then when attorney Homier reviewed the potential changes, he tweaked the language a little bit. But that was not, that was a language tweak. That wasn't a policy recommendation from him. It was more of a, if this is something you're going to do, this is how I would word it.
Did anyone on the governance committee consult our attorney to see if he thought that was a good idea?
No.
It protects us going forward in terms of a stalemate. It doesn't work backwards, but in the future, it's intended to prevent committees not being filled. So hopefully that won't happen again. We discussed it at some considerable length, the ramifications. I like this recommended. I guess I would say it's the final draft. It appears. This was our final draft. Yeah.
Trustee Nordhook, you're on the governance committee.
Well, this is nothing more than an attempt to change a policy that's been in place for years and years and years. The only difference now is we have a new supervisor who makes the appointments, and we have 4 board members that really don't care for her appointments. So this is a totally useless piece of document changes. The old policy worked for years just fine. Never had an issue, never had any problems until we have a new supervisor that appoints different people. So I think this was a whole waste of time and another attempt to take away the authority of the supervisor. That's my 2 cents.
Trustee
I get
Dowd?
that. I completely disagree. That's not true at all. Supervisor Les Prince has done a fine job and I have nothing against her and I work with her and I've met with her privately and I'm pleased with what she's doing. What it does do is it puts the final vote for anything back in the command or back in the purveyance or control of the full board, not just 2 people on the governance committee. So where it said before, the governance committee could basically overrule the board. And that wasn't right. That was a mistake that was made. I don't know when, 2016, I understand. But that's the main problem with what was written on B. And that's just been lined out, moved out.
Trustee
And
McDonald, if that were true, that would be a problem, but where in the old policy and then was that, and where in is the correction in the new proposed policy?
it's corrected in, as he writes it,
It's the first
in,
one.
I think it's 3B1.
How could the governance committee overrule the board under the current policy?
Because it says upon the recommendation of the governance committee.
That's what we want to take.
And all we're doing is removing that on 4B
That's all you're doing?
primarily.
It looks like B1 is where you're making the committee members stay if this board doesn't approve the appointment.
And our township attorney also recommended that be removed.
Not true.
Well,
Not true.
it's in his, it's
The holdover?
we're on 4B1 when I'm looking at in the blue, which is from the attorney. 4B1 is,
No, he's talking about 3.
oh, okay. I'm talking about 4B1s.
That was a request by trustee Kessel.
Well, I just think it makes a lot of sense, so.
It just takes the power away from the supervisor who has been given that authority for
Doesn't have anything to
years.
do with the supervisor. It has to do with putting the control, the vote of a full board as opposed to 2 out of 3 members of the governance committee.
I'm going with the holdovers. If you don't want to approve the people that she puts in place, the committee's dead until we can find another person. It's just the holdover is just, that could go on for years. That puts the power of appointment in the boards, not the supervisor.
What's our attorney say about that point about the holdovers?
I called him today and asked him, he said he didn't think it was a good idea for the same reason. It's just tit for tat. The only holdover, the only board or committee or commission that has holdovers is the planning commission specifically. And that's because the planning commission conducts township business that needs to get done whether or not there's a stalemate at the board.
And our attorney has not reviewed the recommendations that we got here tonight, right?
He reworded trustee Kessel's request, but he doesn't think it's a good idea, but it's also not his call, it's this board's.
I understand that.
And it's not illegal.
No, I move to approve the amendments in the Township Committee policy as recommended by the
Well,
governance.
hold on,
committee.
are there any other item, is there any other discussion?
My only discussion is our new attorney that we have is pretty in tune with municipal operations. I'd like him to review that before we made a decision on it. Review the recommended changes.
She just said she talked to him and he said he didn't recommend it.
Written opinion, please.
Support the motion.
These amendments don't even address all the issues that were noted by legal counsel. This is just tit for tat, transparent, after the fact games. It's the equivalent of political gerrymandering. And this board and the governance committee have more important issues that they should address.
Yes, we do.
Perhaps we could be better served by this board if it actually, or the governance committee, if it looked into actual concerns, like how a township employee that notarized a really important stormwater management agreement between the township and the Round Hill developer happened when that particular employee whose signature and dated is on that document was not even a licensed notary or a township employee at that time. Treasurer Pierce, you're chair of this governance committee. That should be placed on the next committee agendas meeting.
Let's get back to this issue.
Mhm.
Motion is made, seconded.
It's a motion by who?
No,
Motion by Treasurer McDonald, supported by Treasurer Pierce.
I don't like Tom as the treasurer.
Sorry,
Trustee.
Trustee McDonald, supported by Treasurer Pierce, Chair of the Governance Committee.
Correct.
Clerk Slater, please call the roll.
Treasurer Pierce,
Yes.
trustee Kessel,
Yes.
trustee Nordhook,
No.
trustee McDonald.
Yes,
Trustee Shipley,
For the reasons that I stated, no.
clerk Slater, yes. Supervisor Lesbrunz.
No, motion carried. Article 9, new business. Item 014-2022. This is an amendment to Patterson Ice Center PUD ordinance. They're asking to lift a number of use and development restrictions. Planner Hillbrands, thank you for presenting this issue. How about we hear from you first before we go into the public hearing to hear from residents?
All right. Thank you, Supervisor. So as stated, the applicant's requesting a final plan review to amend the existing PUD of Patterson Ice Center to remove a number of existing use and development restrictions that are in place there. The applicant's requesting a total of 12 amendments to the PUD as shown in the narrative in your packet. And these requests focus on increasing the allowed capacity of the project, removing restrictions on what groups or teams can use the facilities, and allowing the sale of alcohol on the premise. This request is a little different from others that we've received in that there's no change to the site plan being proposed, but just changes to the actual PUD ordinance itself. So the site was rezoned in 1994 to allow for the existing ice center that's there. Included in your packet are a staff report and minutes from the Planning Commission review of that original PUD approval back in 1994. It appears that original PUD request did generate significant deliberation and discussion at the time there. From reviewing the minutes, it appears that the two most prominent concerns at that time were traffic concerns and the effect that the arena would have on neighboring property values. At that time, Patterson was only a 2-lane street, but now, as you might know, it's been expanded to 5 lanes adjacent to that property to allow for much more traffic flow. A lot of the use restrictions in the PUD came from staff recommendations or suggestions at the time, but it was also noted that those could be amended or reviewed again in the future. So as I mentioned, the applicant's requesting to remove some of the restrictions on who can use the facility and then also on increasing the permitted capacity. So the current PUD ordinance requires that any event with an attendance exceeding 1,184 people be considered a special event and has to receive permission from the township. The applicant met with the fire marshal and one of the building inspectors along with myself. And after reviewing the plans, They came to the conclusion that the actual occupant load of the building, kind of per the code, would be 1,640 people. So because of this, they were asking that that threshold for what is considered a special event be increased to 1,640. According to the applicant, they don't believe that attendance numbers would reach that high very often, but they're also here tonight and might be able to speak more to that as well. The other item that generated the most discussion at the planning commission meeting was the sale of alcohol on the premise. So the applicant has received a Class C liquor license from the Michigan Liquor Control Commission, but they can't actually serve alcohol there until the PUD would be amended, and that's kind of what started this process for them. The planning commission did introduce a couple of restrictions into the PUD regarding the sale of alcohol. One of which is that any event serving liquor requires prior approval from the township for a special event, similar to what is required based on that occupant number. So the planning commission did hold a public hearing regarding this request at their January 17 meeting and has recommended approval of the proposed amendment to the PUD ordinance.
Thank you. Is there a motion for
Move-
subpart A?
I move to go in public hearing.
Support.
It's a motion by trustee McDonald, supported by trustee Kessel to enter public hearing on this matter. All in favor, or Clerk Slater, please call the roll.
Trustee Shipley,
Yes.
trustee McDonald.
Yes.
Trustee Kessel.
Yes.
Treasurer Pierce,
Yes.
trustee Nordhook.
Yes.
Clerk Slater, yes. Supervisor Lesbrunz.
Yes. Motion carried. We are now in public hearing. Anyone wish to comment on this issue? Now is the time.
Hi, Ken Vandercook. They're going for an increase in number of people. Are they increasing the bathrooms? Are they increasing the parking? If they want to increase people, can they do it?
Director Hilbrands,
I think the
Was that
applicant
addressed?
could speak to that as well and give an idea of what they're actually looking for.
Are they going to increase the building?
Nope, building's staying the same.
So the facilities that they got are what they're going to do. Okay.
Hi, my name is Chuck Hoyt. I'm from Naderveld. I'm here with Tom and Kevin from Patterson Ice Arena. So I'm representing the applicant, and so I can speak a little bit to that question from the gentleman. So yeah, as Brian said, this is a little unusual, and then it's an amendment to a PUD, but there are no physical improvements that are to be slated to the building. It's really just bringing the ordinance up to the current sort of operations of the building and how they've operated for quite a while. So there's a discrepancy in those numbers of the occupancy of the building. That was the reason for sitting down with the planning staff person, as well as fire department staff, fire marshal, and the building inspector. And we went through all the fixtures that are in the building, the square footage, the number of seats, the size of the ice and all that kind of stuff. And we came up with a number that everybody was comfortable with, again, including those representatives of the different parts of the city. So that's sort of the background of it. Of course, the other piece to it is the nature of the liquor license. And, just to be clear on the intent of that is that's meant to supplement the business that is operating there now. It's still primarily an ice center. That's what they do. That's the basis of their business. That's the real sort of fundamental thing that they're still going to continue to do. The liquor license is just to supplement their business, to be able to offer those things that people are just going across the street to get right now. So again, primarily an ice center, exclusively an ice center. But the liquor license is meant to just have a little bit of supplemental income so that they can sort of maintain and operate a business that they have for the past 30 years. Same thing goes with the parking as well. They've been operating again for 30 years. They don't anticipate any new huge events that are going to come in. The parking, as proven or as documented by the police department and just interviewing others in the nearby neighborhood, has not been a problem. It's not been overburdened. The parking has not been overburdened on the site. Just the 30 years of experience has shown them that their parking is sufficient on the site. So that's just a little bit of background to some of the questions that have come up in the past. So we're here to answer any other questions that you might have too.
Thank you.
Did they intend to serve beer and wine at high school hockey games?
You guys want to handle that one?
I think I heard Brian say something about needing a permit to serve alcohol.
Yeah, my understanding, just to jump in real quick too, is in the ice area, there is no alcohol allowed during those games. Is that right? High school and college. High school and college, right? But it would be in the viewing area. If you have your print in front of you, the viewing lounge.
I'm really familiar with Patterson, yeah.
There you go.
If you're in the mezzanine area, you can drink there. You just can't bring it to the stand.
Yeah, we call it viewing lounge on the print that you have. there.
So during the high school hockey games, people could go outside and buy a beer.
Well, yeah, up in the concession stand, like in a popcorn, but they can't go and watch the game with it. They have to stay in the designated area with alcohol. They can go with popcorn, but not alcohol.
I got you. I thought Brian said you had to have a special use permit to sell it. So I thought maybe certain functions would have it, but you intend to be able to sell it all the time as long as it's consumed in the area designated, right?
Trustee Kessel, that was specifically for the sale of liquor. They need to get a special event prior
Okay.
approval
Our
before.
plan
Not
is
the
only
beer
to do
and wine.
beer and wine, not
Right.
liquor. The only reason the liquor comes with this license, but if we ever did liquor, it'd be a special event, like a wedding, type.
Okay. And have you found that, I don't know this, so that's why I'm asking, have you found that other ice rinks around the area, like Southside or some of the others are doing this now too?
In our area, the only one is north end of town up in Rockford. He has a full liquor license. And he has a designated area where they stay in and they drink. The next closest rink would be down in Kalamazoo, which would be a double sheet facility that the whole building is approved for liquor and beer and wine.
But none of the other ice rinks that high schools play at in our area.
Not at this point. Southside, when they run their big national tournaments and stuff for USA Hockey, actually the Convention Bureau from Grand Rapids applies for a beer and wine license, and they do sell during their big events.
Thank you.
I see under your request, it's also being made to remove some of the restrictions that previously prevented some of the ice events. Is that correct?
Right, and the PUD that we have now restricts us from doing some college hockey games. Some other stuff that we have been doing that we didn't know that was in that PUD. Like I've been the general manager for the last 15 years or so, and I just kept doing what the previous general manager did. And we didn't notice that until we went to try to add this beer and wine license, that we were breaking that rule. And that's all we're trying to do is just come up to speed. And
I understand you're
Yeah.
trying to clarify it. So you have had professional hockey games and exhibitions?
no
in it?
professional, no, just college.
Okay. Let me see, intramural teams, local colleges, pageants, ice shows. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and as far as, we're not going to be a destination for people to come and drink. It's just for the people that are there to watch a game or there to be at the rink, to let them buy a beer, because a lot of the new rinks that are opening up now, they do have these licenses. We're just trying to, try to make a little bit of more money,
You are aware that if there's problems with liquor license or liquor use, it's easier to shut you down?
Yep.
Just so you're aware of that.
I've had two granddaughters who have taken lessons at the ice rink. When the lessons are going on or one of their ice shows are on, would liquor be available then?
There won't be any liquor available, but the beer and wine, there'll be
Beer
beer and wine
available?
available. Yeah, no liquor.
Did you hear much feedback from some of the youth teams or families related to that?
They've been asking for it for a long time. Yeah, long time. a lot of the parents travel, like hockey, travel all over the place. And they always come back from these other rinks that can do it, and they always ask us, why don't you guys do that? And now we're trying to do that, and that's been going on for years, and now we're finally taking that step.
Is the Van Andel Arena scared with this?
We're not
Proposed change.
competition to the Van Andel.
I'm just teasing.
In June, or in January, I was actually at the USA Hockey meetings in Florida. And that was one of the things they asked me was, if you get a beer and wine license, they're excited because they want to bring events to Grand Rapids. They don't come now because we don't have it. So it does open opportunities, bring in events to fill hotels, restaurants, and all that good stuff too. So.
Manager Swayze?
Just to piggyback on the questions regarding the high school game. So at the request of the planning commission, we did send notification directly to the school through Superintendent Beam that this was being considered at the planning commission level. We did not hear back from them, but they were notified that it was going through the process.
Thank you.
I have a question for Chief Majors also. Chief, I know that your department has responded numerous times to the ice arena, mostly for medicals.
That's correct.
Have you had any difficulties accessing or finding where you need to be for those emergencies?
Zero problems with any kind of emergency response.
Okay, so the access and the guidance that you get from the staff has been sufficient?
Correct. Fantastic.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you, Chief.
Ms. Brott, do we have anyone in virtually who would like to comment?
If any of our Zoom participants would like to make a comment during this public hearing, please raise your hand. If you are participating via phone, please dial *9. We'll wait a moment, Supervisor. It doesn't look like there is anyone who wants to participate.
Okay, is there a motion?
Motion to close the public hearing?
Support.
It's a motion by trustee Kessel, supported by trustee Shipley to close the public hearing. Clerk Slater, please call the roll.
Trustee Nordhook,
Yes.
Treasurer Pierce,
Yes.
trustee Kessel,
Yes.
trustee McDonald,
Yes.
trustee Shipley,
Yes.
clerk Slater, yes, Supervisor Lesbrun.
Yes, motion carried.
Just want to clarify with Brian. Brian, this is just the approval of the preliminary plan, correct?
This is the final plan
Okay, all right.
approval.
I
So the
was looking
planning
at-
commission review the preliminary and then recommend the final
Okay,
for
okay,
the
good. I
board.
was just I wanted to clarify that, what it says here.
So we're now in subpart B, where the board will consider the applicant's requested amendments to the PUD. For discussion or a motion?
I move to approve the amendment to Patterson Ice Arena.
Support.
It's a motion by trustee McDonald, supported by trustee Kessel to approve the proposed amendments. Clerk Slater, please call the roll.
Trustee Shipley,
Yes.
trustee McDonald,
Yes.
trustee Kessel,
Yes.
treasurer Pierce,
Yes.
trustee Nordhook,
Yes.
clerk Slater, yes, Supervisor Lesbrun.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you for coming to answer our questions. Next item, 015-2022. This is for the 2020 contracts with Funny Business and Signal Point Band for services related to our 4th of July celebration. Manager Swayze?
I'm going to turn this over to Chief Majors because this is right in his wheelhouse.
Thank you, Supervisor. Attached is a copy of the contract submitted by Funny Business Entertainment Agency for the 2020 4th of July celebration. Due to the COVID pandemic and gathering restrictions the last 2 years, the signed contract was applied to the 2022 4th of July celebration. We're asking that this year's contract is $45,875. In January of 2020, the deposit was paid by the township $22,687. And the remaining balance is $23,187. So we're requesting that be considered and approved if we want to have 4th of July this year.
Put it that way.
Doesn't feel like 4th of July outside. but
Hasn't felt like it for the last 2 years, has it? Adam?
Right.
No elephants or clowns.
Lots of clowns, right? Yeah.
Trustee Shipley?
Just a comment from the public sector. This event has always been one of the key events of the township. Indeed, of an entire area. And you can see that by the number of people that are coming out from outside the township to enjoy it, which I greatly appreciate. It was a loss. And the request today is not out of line with what they've used in the past. I am sorry to see the elephant rides aren't there this year, but I think it's a great opportunity to not only take care of our residents, but also showcase our township.
I didn't realize before becoming supervisor how much the fire department did in the background and how hard they worked on this. You guys did
This is our big event. Yeah, the roster really enjoys participating in that. Big community event.
Mhm.
This and Halloween.
Make a motion to approve the request.
Support.
It's a motion by trustee Kessel, supported by trustee Shipley to approve both the proposed contracts. Clerk Slater, please call the roll.
Trustee Kessel,
Yes.
Treasurer Pierce,
Yes.
trustee McDonald,
Yes.
trustee Shipley,
Yes, indeed.
trustee Nordhook,
Yes.
Clerk Slater, yes, Supervisor Lesbrunz.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you, Chief Majors. Item 016, 2022, proposed road closures for the 2022 4th of July celebration. I forgot to.
All right, going along the theme of 4th of July celebration, attaches a resolution for road closures for Monday, July 4th, 2022. They're the same roads that we close every year. No changes, no amendments. Just making that request. We can get that submitted and
Chief, also in the past, you've also had sheriff department with reserves helping with crowd control and pedestrians crossing the active roads.
that's correct.
I'm guessing that this still happens this year.
Same exact procedure as the last few years.
Okey dokey. Thank you.
Thank you.
I move to approve the resolution for the road closures for July
Support.
4th.
It's a motion by trustee McDonald, supported by trustee Shipley to approve the proposed road closures. Clerk Slater, please call the roll.
Trustee Nordhook,
Yes.
trustee Shipley,
Yes, indeed.
trustee McDonald,
Yes.
Treasurer Pierce,
Yes.
trustee Kessel,
Yes.
Clerk Slater, yes, Supervisor Lesbrunz.
Yes, motion carried. Next item 017, 2022, bids to replace Fire Station 2's HVAC and air makeup unit.
I should have just stayed up here. Yeah, so Station 2 has the original heating and cooling from 26 years ago. It's starting to really show its age, and it's been recommended, I believe, 2 years ago to have it replaced because it's at its end of life. I did pull our maintenance records, and we have put $12,269 into those units in the last few years. So we are at the point now where we are recommending to replace those. So it was put in the capital improvement budget a couple years ago. And we are here today to recommend that. We did go out for 3 bids. The bid that we are recommending is actually from B&V Mechanical, who is our current contractors that service those units. They just so happen to be the lowest bid, even though I know that that's not always what we go with. But in this case, it is. We're asking for funds not to exceed $53,000.
Trustee Shipley?
Chief, 5 years ago, that unit was a pile of crap.
That's correct.
Why did it take you so long to get it replaced? Never mind, I don't want to know that. My only comment would be to you, just like many other times, get it done right. Don't save a nickel to waste a dollar. That's all I have.
Appreciate it.
Further discussion or a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Support?
It's a motion by trustee Kessel, supported by trustee Shipley to approve the proposed bid to replace the HVAC and air make unit at Fire Station 2. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Chief Majors.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Item 018, 2022, the 2022 road maintenance program. Manager Swayze?
Thank you. So each year we budget general fund dollars to go towards the improvement of local roads. This process for identifying local roads for improvement typically begins in late winter and early spring. A list is provided by the Cascade Township staff to the Kent County Road Commission for investigation. The initial list of roads compiled by the township is developed by using resources such as our road phaser ratings supplied by the Road Commission, complaints and requests by township residents and businesses, and visual inspections by the township staff. So the Road Commission then takes the possible project list, and provides recommendations to the township on maintenance or repair activities and cost estimates. This list is further reviewed by the township staff to select the highest priority projects considered within the construction budgeted allocation for road repair, and then is presented to the township board for approval. So we've reviewed several areas that will need to be addressed in the next few years with the complete mill and fill. That's the most intense maintenance activity that we do. Basically, the top 3.5 inches of the road are milled off and replaced with fresh asphalt. The recommendations this year primarily include several residential areas in the southern portion of the township, and includes actually some less invasive preservation work as well. So in your packet, I included the Pacer map of the township local road system, and then proposed estimate work orders for the 2022 improvements program. So we have 73.92 miles of local paved roads. Those include both neighborhood roads and section line roads. Section line roads are, these are the roads that the township typically contributes funding towards, but the Road Commission does do 2 to 3 miles per year of preservation treatment on our section line roads that we don't have to contribute towards. In addition to the local paved roads network, we have 40.92 miles of primary roads. These are federal aid eligible roads, and they're typically fully funded repairs by the Road Commission. And we also have 4.91 miles of local gravel roads. So if you look at the map, we do rate the roads each year. The Road Commission rates the roads each year on Pacer ratings. This is essentially a 1 through 10 system that rates the roads in either good condition. That's the 10 to 8 Pacer rating, and are typically a greenish color on the map. Fair, which is 7 to 10 in the Pacer rating, and it starts to get in the yellowish area, yellowish orange. And then the poor rated roads are a 4 to 1, and those are dark orange to red. So this year, all of the roads being recommended for work in 2022 fall into either the poor or fair categories. So the Road Commission has several repair options that are available for the local paved road system. The repairs range from full depth mill and fill, which is typically around $300,000 per centerline mile, to microsurfacing, which is about $50,000 per centerline mile. Certain treatments are appropriate for certain road conditions. Roads that are in good and fair category may be eligible for less intensive treatments, while the poor roads often need full depth mill and fill or similar work. It should also be noted that there's a diminishing return on investment for certain treatments when they've been applied multiple times. So for example, typically when you microsurface a road, you'll find that it may add 7 years to the useful life of the road. If you go through and do a second microsurfacing after that, and it's applied to the same road, it may only extend the useful life of the road 3 or 4 years, and eventually a more intense work is needed. So we identified 2.13 miles of roads that have been rated poor on the Pacer scale that are being recommended to be addressed with full depth mill and fill. In addition, just over 1 mile of roads is being recommended for seal coating, which is a less intense preservation project that can be done. So the total cost of the work is approximately $890,000, and the township will be responsible for $445,000. And the roads recommended for work include Alaska Avenue, Golden Oak Trail, Little Harbor Drive, Sandy Hollow Drive, Sequoia Drive, Tannin Court, Tannin Trail, Woodlark Drive, Briarcliff Drive, and Buttrick Avenue. So I just want to note as well that primary estimates are being made for the repaving of the Goodwood Burger neighborhood as well. If you took a look at the Pacer map, you'll notice that big red splotch right in the middle there. That also happens to be the area we are doing water extension projects over the next 2 years. And our hope is for phase 2 of that water extension project to be done in the first half of the construction season, 2023, and then for the road paving to take place the second half of 2023, to make sure those residents only have to endure 2 years of local construction rather than 3 years of local construction. And that's part of the reason why the program this year is a little bit smaller than we've recommended in years past, because we're anticipating a large recommendation for the 2023 program. So the projected cost of the township for the program this year is $445,000. In our budget, we budgeted $400,000. But you may recall in past years, biddings provided savings from the engineer's estimate. So I wouldn't recommend that we do any type of budget amendment for any additional dollars that are needed until after those bids come back. Because there's a good chance it'll be pretty close to that $400,000 number. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the local road recommendations.
Ben, thanks. And we've talked before about Tricklewood and Berger and whatnot, and it only makes sense to hold off until the water mains are placed. I do notice, tongue in cheek, that the Kent County Road Commission Road is in red down there on Complex Drive. Something wrong with that. And if we do have money left over, as you have very skillfully managed in past years, I would recommend that we focus those extra miles, if there are any, in the residential areas and not in the commercial areas. Like up on Star Avenue and some other commercial avenues, Kendrick Street. I think it's better that we serve our residence area before we serve the commercial areas. That's all I have.
Why does Buttrick, I just wonder, it goes past the train overpass and it's real narrow and it goes past Sandy Hollow. I think it's Sandy Hollow, right?
Yep.
And a little ways and then turns to gravel. Why is that not paved like up to Anderson Woods?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I'm sure a lot of the residents down there would appreciate you asking that question. But it has to do with the fact that that section of road down there is fairly narrow. It's tree covered. When the whole project to pave Burton or Buttrick was done back before my time, the residents that lived in that section of Buttrick specifically did not want it to be paved because of the cross section that would have to happen. So the road commission has a minimum cross section, which means that the road would be widened and all the trees covering the road would be removed.
Okay.
And they like the natural beauty of that section of road. B, those trees provide them protection from the traffic on the road that they didn't want to lose. But I hear from the residents in Anderson Woods and those side neighborhoods a lot of the time. They've been given all the documents that they need to have filled out in order to start a potential paving project. But it's clear that there's residents down that area that would not support it.
Thanks.
Along with that improvement, I believe there's ditching and widening of the roads too.
Same issue on Burton by the park, right?
Same issue on the section of Alaska that goes north of that neighborhood there.
What about Ben, Snow Avenue? What do you call it, a town line road or township?
Yeah, yep. So we're actually having conversations with the residents on Snow Avenue, because they have an active petition to pave that section of road, as we do with the dirt section of Quiggle as well. Snow Avenue provides some problems though. So we're talking specifically about Snow Road between 52nd and 60th Street. The way the responsibility of the section line roads was divided by the county back in the 1920s or 1930s. We're actually only responsible for half of that road, but it's north and half rather than east and west, right? So, the township's responsible for the whole road. So Lowell Township's responsible for the whole road from 52nd Street, a half mile south. And then the township's responsibility picks up after that, going further down. So Lowell Township has said specifically that they do not have the money available to pave their section of road. But the residents that live on our section of road are interested in having our section paved. So we've been having conversations with them. We're due to, circle back with them, and we'll probably be having in the discussion session of our board meeting coming up here in the next couple meetings, a question as to what we want to do. We did put money in the budget for engineering work from the road commission for that, if the board chose to do that. So again, the process, how it works is if the board decides they want to explore the possibility of paving in it, we have to sign a work order with the road commission. Typically that work order is up to $20,000. They don't spend that amount of money, but they do enough engineering to figure out what the limits of the road, what the clearing is gonna be, what it would look like, and give a cost estimate. And then they come back to the township gets to decide if it's a project they want to do, if there's going to be some type of assessment to the residents, what that looks like, and then has the ability to move that forward if they want to. If the project goes forward, the county rolls that into the full cost of the project. So that essentially the county will pay for half of that preliminary engineering, and the township or the project pays for half of it. If we decide not to go forward, the township's stuck with that whole bill. So
Do the residents I guess, is it understood that Cascade's responsible for that certain portion and that Lowell is, that they're not going to come back for us for Lowell's portion too later?
no. So we had a really good meeting late last year with a couple of the residents that are leading the charge. Lowell Township was there, the road commission was there. So everybody in that room really understood what happened. And, the residents that were representing the Cascade Township residents said even if Lowell's not going to pave their portion of it, they'd like to consider paving the southern portion of it. That would give them a paved exit out of their neighborhood to another paved road. So they would just have to go south to 60th rather than north to 50th.
Do you remember was it unanimous as far as the residents that are on that section?
For the section that we would be able to pave, yes, everybody was supportive of it. But to add another layer of issue, right? So say, because when we've done these types of paving projects in the past, there have been assessments associated with it. We can't legally assess the people that live on the Lowell Township side. So Lowell Township would have to do that assessment and then provide us the funds. So it's pretty complicated, a lot more complicated than a road that's completely in the township.
I had another call last week from a resident. I think I would love to see it paved.
Yeah.
Any other questions or?
Just one more brief comment. So we have had a couple of comments from residents interested in having Buttrick, the northern part of Buttrick, repaved as well. And they've really requested so the past couple of years, the road commission has gone out there and done their chip sealing, which is essentially they put down the tar and they put down the chips. And the complaints have been more about not necessarily the quality of the road surface, but the residents have referred to it as a roller coaster when you're driving down it. Cars kind of rocking back and forth. And so I had a pretty long conversation with the road commission about it. We think that the traffic counts on this section of road might be high enough for us to get it added to the federal aid eligible list, which would open up a whole pocket of funding to be available to do that. So not really focusing on any work on that section of road this year, but more so focusing on seeing if we can get it in the federal aid eligible system so we can open up those other funding sources.
You talking about Buttrick?
Yeah, yep.
Would that open up a can of worms as far as speed and width of the road or change of course or anything?
Nope.
Little background history on Buttrick. About 3 decades ago, the county did go out and straighten out and level part of Buttrick north of the fire station. It did increase the speed up there, but it did reduce the number of accidents. Prior to that, it was known as Death Valley by the fire department.
Is that stretch from 28th south?
Yeah.
What was the resident feedback on Cascade, on the road commission's thoughts of adding a turn lane on Cascade Road east of 36?
The center line road. So I did have a conversation with Wayne about that. The primary complaints they got were actually from residents that lived on Ken Rob and Pine Park Drive. And their complaint was that they just got the pathway, but it's on the opposite side of the road from them, right? And they're worried that putting that turn lane in there is going to increase the speeds and it's going to make it harder for them to cross over to the other side. So I talked to Wayne a little bit about it. He was going to work on some possible solutions to that for us to consider. But that was, when they had the meetings, that was really he said everybody that came to the meeting was lived on Ken Rob Court or that other there.
Thanks.
Are you asking for a motion to approve this?
You've got
I'll
one.
make a motion to approve the 2022 road maintenance program.
Support.
It's a motion by trustee Shipley, supported by trustee McDonald to approve the 2022 road maintenance program as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Article 10, discussion. We'll hear an update from Manager Swayze on the current job postings and positions with the township.
Yeah, so we have several job postings and open positions out there. So I will start with the administrative assistant to the manager and supervisor's office. Happy to announce that that was awarded to an internal candidate, Jessica Stein, who had previously been the administrative assistant in the planning department. So she is kind of serving dual roles right now because we have to turn around and post her position. But so she's been doing that and she's been working out great. We're really excited about that. So we had 2 positions posted that closed last week. That was the zoning administrator and the public works director position. So the amount of resumes we got back was pretty low. We got 4 for one position and 6 for another. But starting to do the primary review now, and there appears to be several viable candidates in there that we're excited to do that. So we're working on putting together the interview teams for those 2 positions. We anticipate interviewing for those positions not next week, but the following week. And then we will go from there to see if there's an offer that we can make. So we have 2 interim employees in the township right now. So Brian is serving as our interim planning director, and Katie is serving as our interim HR director. I'm collecting final feedback on the work that they have been doing right now. Not to spoil it next week, but they've been doing an awesome job. And everybody that I've been talking to has had a lot of positive feedback for those 2 employees. Being as they're both department head positions, my plan is to come to the township board, similar to what the supervisor does with the committee recommendations. So, I would make the recommendation and hope that they would be confirmed by the township board. And I plan to do that at the next meeting. We also have a couple fire department positions open. So we're going through kind of every time there's a retirement on the top end of our department, there's basically a waterfall of, because we have to do promotions to the captain. And then if there's a lieutenant that gets that, we have to do promotions to the lieutenant. And then, so we've gone through that process now, and now we're to the bottom of of it. So we had 2 firefighter positions that are open. And that's closed now. And we ended up with a really good pile of candidates. We were really impressed with the quality, not only of our internal candidates that came through our paid on call system, but the external candidates as well. The reputation of the Cascade Fire Department is very good. A lot of people that are interested in making lateral moves into our department, which we're excited about. So the hiring team has whittled that down, and they have to go through a physical agility test. They have to go through a written tests, and then there's an interview process. But all of that will culminate at the township board meeting on April 13th. We'll actually be doing the promotion ceremony. So it's a great opportunity for us to recognize the firefighters that are being promoted and coming to our organization. And then all of the changes happen then too. So for example, while the new captain has already been decided, they actually don't take that captain's spot until all of those changes are made, and they all happen at once. So it's not super complicated. So a lot of good things going on. We've got a couple summer positions in our buildings and grounds department open right now. Just like everywhere, getting qualified staff is hard, especially for some of those positions. If you know anybody that's interested, let them know. Anybody out there in the public that might be interested, we've got a couple. They're great jobs. They're summer jobs. You get to be outside. They pay very, very well. They start at $15 an hour. But we're looking forward to being fully staffed here soon.
Any questions, comments?
I have one.
I got one. You go first.
On these applicants that you received, are any of them civil engineering backgrounds or?
Yes, we have several candidates with civil engineering background.
Okay, because my thoughts are to bring like our pathway engineering in-house. instead of subsing that out to our other engineer.
Yeah, that is a hope that a lot of that, again, we're never going to get away from having to use, engineering consultants on things like, the water main project that's going on. It's simply
Understood.
something we wouldn't be able to do in-house, but things like, pathway, the person would work really close with Brian. A lot of the, site plan review engineering, instead of farming that out to somebody for $180 an hour, use our own internal employees. So the hope is that when it's all said and done, we'll actually receive some savings because we're not farming out as much engineering as we're doing right now.
Good, thank you.
Based on the numbers I've seen, it will be significant savings in engineering costs.
Good job, Ben. That was my same question that Tim already asked about. And just to remind you that hope is not a method. That's all I have to say.
Anyone else have any cynical additions?
Cynical.
Seasoned.
Wise advice.
Seasoned advice, thoughts? Yeah, we definitely need an engineer for that Department of Public Works. I guess my concern was that the description doesn't quite match the general consensus on the board that we are specifically looking for a township engineer. But if we've got a couple great candidates, we can look at those and then always reevaluate if we need to change our post. Thanks for the update. Article 11, public comments. Anyone in person or virtually wishing to make a comment right now? Okay.
We do have one person virtually, Mr. Whitley.
Good evening, Mr. Whitley.
Hello?
Yes, good evening.
Hello.
I've commented, on various times in the past here because I sometimes, participate in Zoom, sometimes don't get to see it until the YouTube comes out, and sometimes I'm there in person. And the last several times on the Zoom, the volume of the speaker stand has been very low and hard to differentiate. And it can be fixed by me by raising it and stuff. But tonight was excellent. So whatever was done to correct that problem, I appreciate that because they don't have to, make special adjustments to the volume here in order to go there. So whoever did that and whatever was done, good job there. The other thing is I'm looking forward to the updates to the community projects portion on the website and hoping that as the new personnel come on board that communication with the public via their website, is improved there, and looking forward to that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whitley. Appreciate the comments.
Would anyone else, would any of our other Zoom participants like to speak? Please raise your hand. It looks like that was it.
Okay, that will conclude second portion of public comments. Article 12, Manager Swayze, any comments tonight?
Yeah, just real quickly, and we have been patiently waiting over the past year and a half for the state to update their constitutional revenue sharing process. So we are one of the fortunate municipalities, like we have been in the past, that saw a significant population boost between the 2010 and 2020 census. The nice thing is that comes with additional revenue sharing as well. So finally got the numbers were released late last week. Happy to announce that our yearly constitutional revenue sharing will go up about $320,000 a year. We're anticipating using that as debt service for the fire station project, which fits right in with the process. So excited about that. And as a nice little bonus, we actually get a retro payment all the way back to October of 2020, which is the first payment that should have been adjusted based on the census. So not only will we get that annual increase, but we'll get a check, a separate check for about $320,000 for the revenue sharing we should have gotten over the past year and a couple months. So when we have our first round of budget amendments, we will make sure to add that into the budget. And I also just wanted to say thank you to a couple firefighters. I mentioned it already a little bit, but Captain Venema, as well as firefighter Norris, are retiring from our department. A lot of combined experience from those firefighters. Captain Venema has been here back when it was all part-timers, and has worked his way through the system and has done a lot of good for the organization and the fire department, and both his and firefighter Norris's services will be sorely missed, and we wish them all the well in retirement.
Thank you. Article 13, board comments.
Sure. First of all, thanks for coming out, folks. And anybody out in La La Land, thanks for listening in. Bring your neighbors next time. Speak up about the road conditions. Speak up about what you like. Tell the chief how well you like his organization. We appreciate you being here. That's all I have to say.
Thanks.
So I just want to throw this out there. I've noticed that a lot of the other townships are starting to talk about it. And there's a couple in our area that actually practice it. And it's called green burial. And it's kind of going back to the way the Indians used to do it. No caskets, no concrete boxes, no embalming. They just simply wrap you in a cotton sheet and place you in your grave. So it's a very cost-effective way. It's green. There's no chemicals. There's no materials other than you going in the grave. So it's something that would require an ordinance change. It's something they'd like to kind of look into, and if there's some interest in our township providing that service, I think we'd like to get it on the books. That's all I have.
Trustee Nordic, I just wanted to say that as the registrar of the cemetery, I have thought of that as well. So you and I should talk about that.
Back to the Indian days.
Can you, Ms. Brott, kind of get us some information and we can talk about it more as a board?
I would love to. I won't be at the next meeting because I'll be learning at the Clerk Institute, but I will get that information.
Thank you.
Manager Swayze?
Just as an anecdotal story, not to keep you guys longer than you need to be here, but so when I came to Cascade Township, I had never been in an organization that maintained cemeteries before. And so that was new to me, and I was probably on the job for about 6 months. And Jim McDonald came into my office in a panic to let me know that they had dug in the cemetery and they had found human remains. And I was like, well, yeah, it's a cemetery. Typically, when you dig in a cemetery, you're going to find human remains. But these human remains were in a spot where they weren't supposed to be. So we actually, I had to do some research, and we had to follow a process, and we actually had investigative team from Michigan State Police come out, and they took all the bones with them and dated them and all of that. And they dated back to the mid 1800s. And they were obviously doing green burials at that point. There was no casket. They said more than likely these people either didn't have the right to be buried in the cemetery and they came under the dark of night and just buried them, or they may have charged at that point and couldn't afford it, or something like that. But so I know of at least one spot in the cemetery where there already were green burials.
We're full circle.
No precedent.
We were off course for a few decades and now we'll kind of get back on track. Any other comments by the board? I said a quick update. It's on our website, but the strategic plan surveys that were mailed out to residents and available online, we've collected all that data and we've created 4 focus areas based on feedback. And we're going to be hosting 4 focus group sessions in March and April. Based on feedback, we were going to have 1 focused meeting, focus group session for residents based on what people want to see as far as, or if anything, as far as a downtown village. That will be Thursday, March 24th, 6 to 7:30. Another area of a lot of interest from residents was parks and trails preservation. That focus group will be Tuesday, March 29th. These are all at the Wisner Center. Another focus group based on resident feedback, growth management, preservation. That will be Thursday, April 14th. And then lastly, but not least, road safety, feeding, streetscapes. That will be the 21st of April. So this is information that's available on our website. I just wanted to let people know if they wanted more information. And also, I believe that they will also be available virtually for people who want to stay home but still check it out.
Can I just add to that real quick?
Sure.
So in addition to those focus groups, the consultant is also starting the work sessions with the boards, committees and commissions in the township. So they completed the one with the planning commission this week. They're meeting with the DDA next week. You'll be getting an email from me tomorrow. We need to set the one with the township board. So we'll offer a couple different options, but coming up here in the next 2 weeks, the board will have a chance to meet with the strategic plan consultants as well.
We're still meeting on the 18th.
We're still meeting on the 18th. Yeah.
Deer, overpopulation of deer. I feel bad because there's been a lot of comments, but specifically, I know it's a strong opinion. I just want to say that I don't want to ignore the residents. I'm just not quite sure how the board addresses that topic or what we've done in the past.
If you want, I can add it as a discussion item for an upcoming board meeting. And I had done some research. Meridian Township, just north of Lansing, has a pretty intense deer call program. So maybe I can give you guys an update as to what they did. And then we've gotten some deer accident numbers from the sheriff's department as well. So we can kind of talk about what the accident numbers have looked like.
Thanks. Has the township discussed a call in the past?
Not that I'm aware of.
One more fun thing. Any other comments? Article 13 or 14, excuse me. Is there a motion?
Motion made for adjournment.
Support.
So motion by trustee Shipley, supported by trustee McDonald to adjourn. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. We're adjourned. Thank you.
A couple questions.
All right,
Good.
hopefully I got a couple answers for you.
Brian Holk.
All right.